Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Chris Almy. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I work at a clinic in Sandy, and I'm here to teach you about how to care for the self in the winter months.
You're sad?
Yeah. I might be quicker deficient. Maybe. Okay. I can just push the button too. This one.
Sorry, Chris.
Oh, you're good.
Start the video over.
Chris, do you want a button pusher? I'd be more than happy to be your button pusher.
I have 3 kids that push my buttons plenty.
Hey!
Okay, so, but first, who am I? So I'm a social worker, I am a licensed therapist, I am a husband, I am a dad, I am some other stuff as well. The reason that I became a social worker was because I've had experiences with my family pertaining to issues with my parents, being raised mostly by my grandparents, experiencing issues within my family that I had no control over, that I really wanted to affect change on but wasn't in a position to. I experienced family members with addiction, experienced family members who were incarcerated. I was in an impoverished position all of my childhood and for a large part of my adulthood. And social work seemed like a good calling for me because not only could I start to work my way out of that, but also I could work with people who were in similar positions and could at the very least help them with the emotional toll of that. So that's sort of how I ended up here. My focus is on development, education, and mental health. What do I mean when I say development? So human development, that's sort of like how babies grow into adults. That's sort of how teenagers become adults through a much more complicated process. But more of what I mean is to help people develop their own thoughts, ideas, their desires, their aspirations, things like that, so that they can achieve the things that they want to. Education, it kind of speaks for itself. I teach people how to manage their emotions, how to overcome trauma, how to deal with challenges and have hard conversations so that they can do the things that they want to do. And mental health, if people are experiencing something like anxiety or depression or some other more severe thing like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, I also help them to be able to cope with those things so that they can live the kind of life that they want to live. I advocate for positive mental health every day. I work with people in a wide array of situations, ranging from, this guy's probably going to be in jail tomorrow, but we'll do therapy anyway, to this guy is the son of a billionaire and he's never had a problem in his life, but he still feels sad. I help everybody. Mental health matters to everyone. And I believe that mental health is tied to every other aspect of life, like your physical, your financial, your spiritual health, because everything is sort of integrated within itself, So, real quick, we're going to speed run it so we don't run out of time. I would just like to I would like for each of you to introduce yourselves. Just tell me your name, where you're from, what you do or would like to do for work, and something that positively affects your mental health or your perspective on the world, right? So, I'm Chris. I'm from Sandy. I am a therapist, and I think it's dope. I think that right now my kids affect my mental health in a positive way because they're so cute and I love them to death. So, let's start with you. Okay, so as we all know, except for right now because it's not snowing, but normally it is, it's cold and it's dark and it's wet out there. December 21st is the darkest night of the year, and the surrounding months are very dark. They have a tendency to depress. They have a tendency to bring on something called seasonal affective disorder, which is aptly sad. Right? It's also called post-holiday syndrome, post-party depression, post-Christmas blues, post-something having to do with the holidays, something having to do with sadness, right? It is a hard time of year for a lot of people. It can bring about things like anxiety, sadness, irritability, insomnia, low energy, distractibility, and stress of any kind makes those things worse and harder to deal with. I've heard that a couple people are parents. I've heard that a couple people are working hard jobs. I've heard that a couple people are in some kind of financial deal. All of that contributes to the fact that we are having a hard time. A lot of us are this time of year. And what I want to do is talk about some of the things that we can do to experience all of that hard stuff that we're dealing with. So what I want us to do, because I want to make sure we don't run out of time, with the people around you, maybe someone you don't talk to quite as often, just share like the biggest 1, 2, 3 stressors around this time of the year. I'll go first. So I said a minute ago that my kids are the light of my life, and that's true. I also have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-month-old baby, and let me tell you, those 3 children stress me out, right? Something that's also stressful for me is work because people come to me with their sad feelings and it's my responsibility to deal with them, and that is stressful for me, right? So, would just the people around you share like one or two things over the course of the next like minute or so?
Groceries. Just trying to keep up with the food prices.
Honestly, this time of year, it's the cold. It's the dark. It's mainly the dark. When it's dark, I'm ready for it to go away.
I don't like the cold, but my skin can't take the hot. So I'm okay with dark, but I don't want cold. So yes, bring out the sun, but not the hot.
That's why fall's the best time of year.
Yes. The wind is even warm, and you like it because it's a little cooler outside. Yes. But we're not supposed to talk about good things. We're supposed to talk about
We're always looking for the positive.
Yes, it is.
That's the first time it's happened too.
I love how we stop and we're just going through the whole thing now.
Where are they gonna go? They went to Mexico.
And time management. Just trying to get enough time to do whatever.
Especially in this time of daylight savings. I can't wait for it to come back.
Or yeah, even with my workout.
Let's bring it back in, please.
Whoop.
So,
You need. There you go.
I used to work at an elementary school. That was very cool. I love the power of that clap. Okay, so part of the reason that we just did what we did was because something that we're going to talk about, not on this slide, but the next one, is a sense of community. Studies have shown that people who have a sense of community, people that have a group of people that they can rely on, or a group of friends that they can talk to, or family members that are consistently there, tend to have better mental health overall and tend to have more positive mental health outcomes when they experience some kind of mental health adversity. So, I'm glad that we all got to make friends for the last like minute and a half or so. Thank you for participating in my thing. I just passed out a bunch of things. There's 6, I think, different papers. The first one that we're going to talk about has to do with values. And I know that you guys had a speaker recently by the name of Warren Porter. He seems like a real smart guy. I'm not saying that our stuff should be held separately. What I am saying is that if you can take his stuff and my stuff and combine it somehow, that would be lovely, because psychology is not about who's right and who's wrong, but rather who can steal the most information from the most people and make it good and useful. Okay, so values. What are values exactly? Can somebody tell me what a value is, what that means when I say that? Yeah.
It's like something that you believe in that affects you as a person and like your beliefs and your morals.
Yeah, right. They affect your ability to make decisions. They affect what kinds of decisions you're involved in the first place. They affect the things you think about, the things you do, the things you aspire towards, stuff like that, right? So what I want you to do is just look at this list of values and identify 3 that resonate with you, that really click with you, and just keep them in your mind. We don't have to talk about it to anybody. There are a lot, so like no pressure also. And then after you identify those 3 values that are the most important to you, what I want you to think about is, are you staying true to them, right? If your value, for example, is, I don't know, family, and instead you decide to be here some evening leaving your poor wife home alone with 3 kids, am I really living up to my values right now? Thanks, honey. Probably not. Maybe a little. We'll see. Anyway, right? Or maybe one of my values is community, right? And so in this instance, what I'm doing, trying my best to involve myself in the community, trying to educate the community, maybe that would be very much living my values, right? But it's up to you to decide, 1, what your values are, 2, are you staying true to them, and 3, deciding why it matters at all if you stay true to your values. Because I could very easily say, like, my value is community, I'm going to leave in the middle of this presentation. That wouldn't be very congruent to my values, would it? But what instead I think matters about it is, no, my value is community. And that matters to me because I'm part of the community, because I can play an active role in people's lives if I choose to, right? Who wants it? You're cool. If, for example, your value is power, right? What you probably wouldn't do is nap on the couch for 6 hours a day every day, right? What you probably would do was be some kind of go-getter or some kind of like powerful initiative-taking individual, right?
Taking it back.
Exactly, right? I dig that. Yeah.
I would just like to say for your recording, that was a very nice transition, and I don't want you to think that that's not. You
Well said.
You're nice.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Great. But we don't. Are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if it was a time to share.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my top 3 are kindness, fairness, and growth.
Very nice. I like that. Do you think that something you're up to this evening contributes to those values or is in alignment with those values?
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty kind.
I dig it. I think from what I can tell so far over the last 20 or so minutes, you also seem kind. You also seem like you're here with a growth-oriented mindset too, right? You're not here because you're like, hey, free dinner. You're here because, hey, free dinner. And also, you're trying to put yourself into a better position, right? I think that's very growth-oriented. Thank you for sharing, right? And, you know, for the sake of time, we're not all going to share our values, but that is something I want you all to take and think about, because if we are living in accordance with our values, wonderful. If we're not, we might want to adjust something so that we're back on track with those things, okay? The second one, coping skills. Who can tell me what a coping skill is? Yeah.
It's something that you use to regulate yourself and like ground yourself, whether it be something physical or emotional, to kind of help like recenter yourself or process whatever emotions you're feeling.
Yeah. I like that. Never once did you say coping skills are to solve the problem, because that's absolutely not the case. What you did say,
Just to help deal with the feelings that you have because of the problem.
yeah, right? You can deal with the problem. Coping gets you through the problem, but it does not solve the problem itself, right? So there are a lot of coping skills. If you Google it, you'll get 10 gajillion different coping skills. If you go to the website that's on the second page of your packet thing, they'll give you like 40 different coping skills, which in my opinion is too many, because I can't remember 40 coping skills. I can remember not very many. That's why I printed them out, right? So the first sheet that I want you to look at it's just labeled M1 on it, right? And it has to do with focusing on an object. You all have an object in front of you of some kind, and I want you to grab it. I want you to touch it. I want you to look at it, right? Paper, glasses, plastic cup, Mountain Dew, bag of stuff. How can that thing be a coping skill?
Fidget with it.
You fidget with it, right? I like that. How else?
Not thinking about it, it's just a distraction.
Yeah, it's a distraction, right? It's also something, if we're freaking out, like, oh my God, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to feed my kids? What am I going to do with my life? I'm going to borrow it. We can shift our focus from out here to right here. Suddenly, all of our problems in the whole world are this big, and all we have to do is really pay attention to this bag of chips, to that Harmon's bag, to those glasses, to that whatever, right? Okay? If we can pay really close attention to this object for like 30 seconds, we say, okay, I have a problem. It is ginormous, it is huge, it is only the size of a bag of chips, it makes an awful sound, it sounds broken now that I've shaken it, sorry. It has some words on it that are almost too small for me to read because I need new glasses. Probably tastes pretty good. Suddenly I'm not thinking about my problem so much, right? The next sheet, it has a picture of a person on it, right? We can also focus on bringing a problem from right here, bag of chips, to right here with the physical self. We can say, okay, from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, does anything stand out? Well, my back kind of hurts because I just spent the last 7 or so hours sitting in a chair listening to people cry. Thank you. I am very satisfied with the amount of food that I have in my stomach. I have to burp a little bit, but I'm not going to because it's food. My feet are a little bit cold, and my bracelets make a sound, and I'm noticing that right now. Okay, now I've focused in on the physical, right? The next thing is to focus on the mental, emotional aspects of ourselves. So I've taken my problems from here to here, just to right here, okay? And I can check in with myself. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What's up with my emotional state right now? Emotionally, I'm pretty stoked to be here. I feel happy right now. I feel glad to be here, right? All of those things we can combine to cope with some problem, whatever problem it is that you guys are having, right? I'm getting a lot of eyeballs on me. Now you're making me nervous. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think it's good. It's really also reminding me of some things that I cope with, like somebody like showed a phone, and I feel like coping with that kind of pushes it down the line a little bit. So I would like to stay off my phone in order to focus on what is around me, what I need to mentally do. Because watching a carpet cleaning video is very satisfying, but I have no work experience with that. It's not going to help me now. It might calm me down a tiny bit, but then I want to watch another one.
Right. That is a kind of coping skill, and it also might not be the best kind of coping skill.
Oh, definitely not.
Are you saying that it's a progression, that you should do each of those things, object, physical, mental?
Yes, and not necessarily. The reason I do it in this order is because it's hard to bring your attention from out here just to in here, but it's easier if we can go down a slope a little bit. We can bring attention from panicking about the world to panicking about this bag of chips to panicking about your physical stuff and panicking about your mental health, right? Now, so hopefully you're not panicking right now. But in my opinion, it is good to go in that progression in the order that the sheets are in. However, if you want to do just one, or if you don't like one of them, you don't have to do it, right? The reason that I brought so many papers today is because a lot of coping skills are very much like a let's throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Sometimes the values thing, people don't dig that at all. They're like, that's not my thing. Cool, okay. Sometimes the physical aspect of coping, people aren't into that, and that's totally fine, right? I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff. Whatever sticks, sticks. Whatever doesn't, doesn't. That's fine. Cool.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Sometimes in trauma too, it's you're not aware of it, so to be able to focus in on mine was breathing, like being aware of my breath and how it affects me if I slow it down and
Yeah, I like that you brought that up. Thank you. You're helping me along right here. Okay. We'll come back to B. What you're talking about could be called paced breathing, right? Just in for 2, out for 2, right? It's part of a skill called the TIP skill. It stands for temperature, intense sensation/exercise, paced breathing, and progressive muscle relaxation. Temperature. This just means if you're feeling frustrated, go cool off somewhere. Or if you're feeling sad and depressed, go take a hot shower. Bring yourself back up, right? Intense sensation or exercise, this could mean do some push-ups. This could also mean eat something sour or something spicy. This could also mean like run your hands under freezing water for a second. Something to stimulate you and get moving again, right? Paced breathing, we talked about that. You could take deep breaths, in for 2, out for 2. You could do some other kind of breathing exercise, but that's what it is. And then progressive muscle relaxation. So we're going to do a thing for about 10 seconds. What I want everybody to do is to stick your hands up in the air, if you're able. And I want you to squeeze as hard as you can. Squeeze it. And then let go. What do your hands feel like? Yeah, right? If you do that with the rest of your body will also experience tension, experience stress, and then if you let it go, let that stress go. That's what progressive muscle relaxation is, right? B, judgment and non-judgment. Sometimes if we're feeling some kind of way or if we're in some kind of situation, we judge ourselves a lot. We can look at that judgment and say, okay, I am judging myself. I acknowledge the judgment, and then I shift to a position of non-judgment. So, for example, I'm judging myself because I'm not hanging out with my children right now. I haven't seen them since this morning, and I'm feeling very judgmental towards myself. What I'm doing is I'm doing something that's important to me. I'm doing something that's important to my community. What I'm instead going to do when I get home is I'm going to help put my kids to bed, and I'm going to run my wife a bath, and I'm going to help her feel better, and I'm not going to judge myself for any of it. Right? It's a conscious decision. Right? Also, most of these only take a few minutes. I call them bus skills because on the way to work and when I was in college, on the way to college, I would do these things on the bus, and I liked them because nobody could tell what I was doing. I didn't have to be embarrassed. Right? Back to the community aspect of this. I'm just going to speed run this one. Can anybody tell me what active listening is? Yeah.
It's not really thinking about how you're going to respond or what you're going to say. You're just simply listening to understand.
Exactly, right? You are not waiting your turn to speak. You are giving all of your attention to the other person. Why is this useful in a community setting?
non-judgment.
Yeah, non-judgment. Right?
Everybody feels appreciated.
Everybody feels appreciated.
Yeah, everybody feels heard and has a chance to say their piece.
Yeah. Exactly, right? Everybody gets an opportunity to be authentically heard over the course of however long the conversation is. There are other options. You could ignore someone. You could pretend to listen to someone. You could selectively listen to someone. You could even attentively listen to somebody, right? But attentively listening is not quite the same thing as active or empathic listening, because if you're actively listening to your turn to talk, right? So what we can do as a community is to give active attention to people. The reason that this helps with seasonal affective stuff is because sometimes people are going through it, and sometimes they need a real listening ear. Sometimes you're going through it, and you need a listening ear. And actively listening, or having someone actively listen to you, does help you feel more valid. It helps you feel more legitimate. It helps you feel better, right? So we also did something kind of like this a minute ago at the beginning. What are you working towards? What are you looking forward to? What brings up your mental health? Stuff like that. What recent steps have you taken? So can I have a volunteer to describe something that you are working towards or looking forward to? Yeah.
I'm looking forward to being an instructor at my job.
That's awesome. Very cool. What recent steps have you taken to do that?
I'm starting to be a lead in prep work.
Okay. That sounds intense, right? Sounds like not the easiest thing in the world, right?
It's pretty easy.
It's pretty easy, but like you could not do that really easier.
I need to learn about different personalities and how different people work and process.
Yeah. Right, so there are still active steps that we need to take in order to accomplish our goals,
Yes.
right? Very cool. I like that.
Learning about other people.
Yeah. Can I have one more? Yeah.
I'm currently saving up to buy this car that I've had my eye on for a few years, sitting in a neighbor's parking driveway.
Very cool. Awesome. What kind of steps have you taken recently to make that happen?
I picked up a small little night job back at the music venue I used to work at in high school to start putting money to the side so I can buy it and start restoring it and stuff.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing, right? If we can remind ourselves of the things we're working towards, it gives us a sense of purpose, like the direction that we're going to go, because I'm sure that we've all felt at some point, like, what am I doing with my life? Especially in December, you're like, Christmas is over. What happens now, right? But if we can remember, oh, Christmas is over. Cool. Kids are going to go back to school soon. Get them out of my house. Recent steps that I've taken to get the kids out of the house. Well, maybe we look at the ABCs on the placemat to make sure that the teacher doesn't call us and say we have to come pick them up because they don't know the ABCs anymore or whatever, right? We can remember that we have a goal to work towards and that we can progress to it in some kind of linear fashion. It helps us to feel like we can do something, like we can reclaim some of the power in the situation rather than just have the situation happen to us. Does that make sense? Right? Any amount of progress is progress, right? So, your night job. Would you be upset if you only got like $50 for the night?
I have before.
Yeah, right? Kind of not what you would want, but like I would want somebody to give me like $10,000, right? But
Yeah,
not gonna have any.
like it's just one more drop into the bucket, gets me one more step closer to that car, so.
Right, yeah, it's progress. It might not be the biggest amount of progress ever, but it is progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
You work towards your position at work. Was that something that you were just like, ta-da, I'm done? No, it's a consistent work. Oh yeah, it's a daily thing, right? Any amount of progress, regardless of if it's you actually getting the position or you just having a good day at work, that's still progress, right? Rest can also be considered progress. This is something that hangs up a lot of people because if we're hanging out on the couch, if we're reading a book, watching Netflix, whatever, we don't feel like we're making progress. But we kind of are, because is rest necessary to stay alive? Right, if we don't get enough sleep, we will physically die. If we don't rest enough, we will be exhausted to the point of falling over, right? This funny word is not pronounced in a way that I'm familiar. I think it's pronounced hygge because it's Danish, and I don't speak Danish.
It is.
Yeah, right? It means something akin to cozy or slow or calm, right? It's a big part of Danish culture, and Denmark is literally the happiest country in the world. I think they're onto something, right?
It could be just a candle.
Yeah, it could be a candle. It could be taking a nap. It could be reading a book. It could be something. It's cold and it's dark outside. If you don't want to go out and be super duper active, that's fine. We can rest. As long as we rest mindfully and intentionally, I think we're good, right? What do you got?
I just want to say this. My mom told me this saying that if you don't rest, your body will make you.
Yep.
So take the time to rest while you can choose it.
Right. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Good.
Right. Time with your family and your friends can be considered progress. Rest doesn't always happen by yourself either. This could be considered rest as long as you're calm and not freaking out, right? So in what ways have we progressed today? Somebody that I haven't talked to yet today. Tell me how you've progressed today towards your goal in your life, whatever. Okay, cool.
Hit the gym right after work.
Yay!
And one of the goals is to, so I do martial arts and I do jiu-jitsu all throughout like my life. I was a wrestler in high school, and there's a tournament coming up in March, and I want to compete in that. So that is consistently hitting the gym, training, but also resting, eating well.
Yeah, right. And you made progress today because you went to the gym. Props to you. Cool. Thank you for sharing. One more person.
He stole my idea.
You're gonna jiu-jitsu?
No. But I did go to the gym.
Okay.
I'll be 50 this year, and I just have a goal to just be, fit, and I want to be healthy and get to see my grandkids and stuff like that. So.
Yes.
Awesome. I like that. Yeah, jiu-jitsu. That sounds dangerous. I think we're good, right? Okay. And lastly, if you have never seen a therapist before, that's okay. I won't judge you. If seeing a mental health professional is feasible for you now or in the future, I'd recommend that you pursue that. Addressing big things like trauma or mental illness or relationship issues, that is very important. People struggle with those kinds of things. People need assistance with that kind of thing a lot of the time because we love our families, and also it's hard to go up to your family and say, hey, I'm having a hard time with this thing that is big and stigmatized and difficult, right? What you can do is talk to someone, a therapist. I was going to say a coach. You can talk to coaches here. Don't talk to a life coach. You can talk to a therapist. I have opinions. Ask me later. But we can also help with things like stress or parenting or self-esteem. Those things, they might seem small. They might seem like, oh, I should be able to do this. I'm a dad. I should be able to just be a dad. I should be able to just think positive thoughts about myself because everybody else does it. Not everybody can do that. A therapist is more than happy to help you out with those things, right? Also, you don't have to talk to a therapist about these things. They are a really good option, but that is, again, where community comes into play, and that's kind of my theme for the evening. We can rely on each other for support. When it's cold and dark and wet outside, we can rely on each other for support. When it's July, we can rely on each other for support whenever, right? If you feel the need to talk to a therapist, I will totally support you with that. I will give you a recommendation to a therapist that I think is rad. I also think talking to each other is a really good idea. Does anybody have any kinds of questions, comments, concerns, gripes, growls? Yeah.
When you were when you were talking about the focusing on an object, yourself, and then something else, I forgot already. But was the point of that to come back to cope with whatever you're stressing with? So you have a stress, and then you go through those 3 steps, and then what? And then you go back to your stressor. I just got lost then.
Thank you for clarifying. I actually didn't do a very good job of explaining that, so thank you for bringing that back. So the purpose of that is to bring your attention from whatever it is that's stressing you out in the world to something that is tangible, that is small enough to hold in your hand, so that you can focus your stress on that thing. And then once your stress is a little bit smaller, because you'll notice if you're stressed about, money. Cool, money's an easy one. If you're stressed about money, and then you focus on this other thing, it's simultaneously distracting you a little bit, and it's bringing your attention from something that we cannot touch to something that we can, right? And so then we bring our attention from this thing that we can touch, that is tangible, to something that we can feel physically, right? So now we're not touching an external object, we are learning about us as an object, right? Once we're acquainted with ourselves, we bring our attention to things that are going on internally or emotionally, and by the time that is done, usually whatever was stressing you out is smaller or is at least easier to deal with. It's not as big and threatening, so that you can deal with whatever problem you were dealing with more effectively, right? It's not to solve the problem, it's to make you an effective enough being to solve the problem. Does that make sense? Cool, awesome. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
Not really a question, but kind of just what you were saying kind of reminds me of like asthma. I don't have asthma. I see other people and I get really scared. But it's like, breathe, take the rest while you can now, so then you don't. end up having an asthma attack and you can't breathe.
Right.
So, and another thing about seeing a therapist, if you guys do need to see a therapist, just look at the back of your
Insurance card?
the insurance card, and that will tell you that the insurance, the therapist in your insurance, because you don't want to go out of network, you want to stay in network for the most financially accessible therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. Please don't go out of network because it's like $100 and some odd for a therapist. Don't do that. Whatever your copay is, I hope it's $0. But that's a good point, right? And I think comparing it to asthma is a good thing because if you wait until it's too bad to deal with, there will be some kind of emergency. But if we take small steps to deal with it ahead of time, if we sort of pace ourselves throughout the course of the entire winter, odds are when we get to spring, we'll be in a better position. Right? Cool. Anything else? Anybody? Cool. I think I'm done.